Which module are we now? So we are in a DNS module. Module 12 is about DNS. 13 is about failover and balancing. 14 is troubleshooting. Okay, so last topic na tayo. So what is DNS? DNS domain names are portion of domain namespace, can be public or private. DNS servers usually responds to requests from DNS resolvers or ping. Okay, DNS zones and resource records. A zone, when you say zone, is a local copy of namespace. Yung server 1, server 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, server 1 nexus.local. That's a namespace. Okay, resource records are created and stored in a zone. DNS resolvers are the one requesting for DNS information such as ping. Okay, kasi nagping ako, nagping. Okay, so ako, I'm requesting IP address of server 3. Yeah, ganun, no? Sabi na to sa akin, 10.1.1.100. Okay? So yan, it resolves to me. Ngayon, it does not reachable dahil naka-block yung ICMP. Naka-block yung ICMP. So pupunta ako sa server 3. I'll go to server 3. I want to make sure na to assign back the original IP address. Kasi remember, we keep on changing. But on our DNS, dito sa DNS natin, tingnan mo in our DNS, the IP address of server 3 is under forward lookup zone. Server 3 is 100. No? So, ba di siya maping? Kasi nga may firewall. No? So, I'm gonna change back to .23. Okay, so I updated the DNS record. And I'm gonna change back dito .23. Naka-dynamic kasi. Yun, that's a problem, no? 23. Then you have to specify the DNS, which is 21. Okay? So this will resolve to the correct IP. So the next time I ping, correct IP na yung babato sa akin. Okay, the reason being kung bakit siya ganyan, kasi naka-cache siya. So you need to flush the DNS. No? Flush DNS. Okay? Yan, burado. I erase the DNS. So next time I ping, I'll get the 23. Yan. Okay? So I'm gonna disable the firewall. I'm gonna turn off the firewall. Turn off. Okay? So it can be reachable. Yun, reachable na ako. Okay? Okay, pingable na with the right IP address. So DNS zones, there are two kinds of zones, lookup zones and forward lookup, reverse lookup and forward lookup. So what is a zone? Zone is the portion of DNS namespace hosted in DNS. On forward, resolved name to IP. So you give the host name, it'll give you the IP address. Reverse lookup, it's you provide the IP address, then you'll be given a host name. Okay? So demonstration. So dito, I provide the host name, server 1. Okay? Binabato sa akin. May IPv6 kasi. No? Let's disable IPv6. There's an IPv6. We don't need IPv6 at the moment. Okay, if you have any question, just raise a question. No? Kasi we have 30 minutes to go. And we're gonna end up in 30 minutes. Tanong na kayo, kahit di related sa DNS, even if it's not related to DNS. Okay, I'm gonna disable IPv6 because we don't need this one. Okay.
May question ako, sir.
Go ahead.
Oo, yung regarding dyan sa failover tsaka sa load balancer, kahit
Mm.
ano yung maunang i-setup mo dyan, wala namang magiging problema yun, no?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. But you
Mm.
need to set up initially. No? You have to do an initial setup sa first server.
Okay. Sige, sir. Salamat.
Okay, so from here, let's resolve server 1. So it'll give us IP address. Okay, tama? Server 2 will give us the correct IP. Being server 3 itself, it will give us IP address. Okay. Now, what will happen if we change the IP address? No? Let's say server 2, we change to uh, 66. Okay. Initially, server 2 has an IP address of that 22. So if I ping again server 2, what will happen? Anybody? Will I get the new IP address na 66 or the old one?
Yung old one pa rin.
Tama, yung old one kasi naka-cache eh. Di ba?
Unless
Naka-cache eh.
mag-test
Ah,
DNS ka, sir, para
yeah,
makuha
correct.
yung bago.
Galing. Tama. So that's the troubleshooting. You need to flash the DNS. Okay? To erase, to get a new one. Okay? That's correct. Tama. So I'm gonna put back to original. So that's troubleshooting. Troubleshoot kagad tayo. Okay, so meron siyang forward lookup zone which contains all the records. So what record is that? Host A record, meaning address. The address of server 1, which is 10.1.1.2. There's another lookup record. Record. Sabi, ayan, yan. SOA, start of authority. So it's the start of your zone, which is what 10.1.1, and the name server, which is your exact DNS, which is .21. Host A record is called address. So there you have a host name, then IP address. Host AA is host name plus IPv6 address. Okay. Alias is AKA, also known as no, CNAME. Let's say you have server 1. Sorry, you have server 1, pero server 1 is file server. So when you ping file server, it will respond. Okay, so piping natin dito. Ping file server 1 .nexus .local. So we get an error. He can't resolve sining file server 1. Diba? Kasi we haven't created an alias. So I'm gonna create an alias. Now right click alias, right click domain, then select CNAME, and then I'm gonna say fs1 .nexus local is the alias for server 1. No? So specify ko sino yung original server, server 1. Okay, yun. So may alias na siya. So the next time I ping, may response. You're pinging fs1, but server 1 is responding. Kasi alias lang siya. Okay? Demo. So I'm going to make a demonstration how to install DNS on a second server. So ito na. So how do you install DNS on a second server? So we have a script as well. So if you want to perform PowerShell, ito lang yan, DNS. Yan. So get Windows feature to display if there's a DNS. If you uninstall DNS, install Windows feature, DNS. Then test DNS. So install natin dito DNS. Install Windows feature DNS, include management tools. Okay. Yan. So it's doing installation. Okay. To create a primary zone, you can do so using PowerShell script. If you want to create 10.0.0, no, so that's the network ID. So the zone file will be the reverse lookup zone. If you want to test the resolution, let's say I want to test if server 1 has an IP of 11, you have to type test DNS IP server. No? If you want to add the forwarder, meaning all requests will be sent to Google DNS. Kasi Google has all the records. Eh. No, so lahat ng requests will be forwarded to Google. Okay? If you want to check the DNS, get DNS zone. If you want to list all the record under Nexus local DNS, get DNS resource record. No? Try natin to. Try natin. Sige. Ito tapos na kasi ito eh. So we want to list all the record. Okay, so get DNS server, get DNS server resource record. Okay. To which zone? Zone name is nexus.local. Ay, mali. Wrong typo error. Local. Oh, yan naman, DNS. Okay, so server 1, server 2, server 3 has equivalent record, and we have SRV and so on. Napadami. Na? Okay, so we have successfully created install DNS. So if you click, ano to? Cancel that. If you click tools, there should be a DNS. Ayun. Okay, you have DNS. We have a blank DNS. Okay, server 3. Ay, ba't install ko server 3? Kamali ako. Tapos server 2. Anyway,
Dapat
tapos
server 2
server
lang,
2.
no?
Oo. Ay, paano natin matatest na? Anyway, as of now, there's nothing in lookup zone, nothing in reverse lookup. Now, dito sa forward lookup, may record tayo. Server 1, 2, 3. Okay? So, I want to propagate this record to server 3. Okay? So, how we're gonna do that? So, we're gonna perform propagation first. So select server, this server, properties. So gusto natin propagate so we can have two DNS server, right? So this is the scenario. Server 1 should have a primary DNS and server 2 should have failover DNS. Pero dito ko nalagay. Okay. So how do you replicate the record? So step 1, no? You want to propagate the lookup zone, create a new zone. Whatever yung zone nito, zone name is Nexus local, you have to provide sa primary zone. Okay, primary zone is Nexus local. Okay. And create a file. Gusto ko secondary na lang. Ngayon ko nang para ma-feel nyo. Kasi this is primary DNS which creates a copy, a master copy of DNS. I would like to create secondary zone. Secondary zone creates a copy, no? Exists on another server. But you won't be able to delete from this server. Okay? For security reason. Okay? So na-detect niya Nexus local and then IP address of the DNS which is 10.1.1.22. 21 pala. 21. Tama? Press enter. Ayun. He detected instantaneously. Okay? So meron na akong Nexus local pero how come the records is not being replicated? Diba? Kasi you need to do some post-installation task. So ito yung start of authority. Okay. Data is not available because it's not pulling up data. You have to authorize server 3 to be replicated from master server. Okay. So ito yung host master natin. So you have to go properties. Okay. Name servers. Remember, my server 2 is listed on server on DNS1. No? Next is step 2. You have to make sure na you allow zone transfer only to the server listed in name servers. Okay? Apply. Next is how do you want to transfer? No? How do you send updates? Now, you want secure? Wala tayong HTTPS. We don't have HTTPS. So I would like to select none. No? Non-secure since local lang naman siya. Yun lang. So those are the three you need to configure. First, you have to make sure server 2 is under name server. Step 2, you have to make sure allow zone transfer to server listed in name server. Step 3, how would you like to send dynamic updates? I said no security. Okay. So go to the server. As of now, there's no record. Hit refresh. Boom. Hindi pa nag-replicate. Okay.
Boss, yung IP address niyang DNS
You,
server 3, di ba dapat i-add?
Alalen, DNS server 3. Ay, 3
Oo,
pala. Tama, tama.
oo,
Server
dapat
2.
i-add. Kasi server 3 nandoon,
Oo,
dapat
server
server
2
3.
yung inad ko. Tama,
Kaya hindi siya
tama.
mag-replicate.
Kaya hindi mag-replicate. Oh, di ba? Napili niya. Isa pa, isa pa. A-add ko yung 3 naman.
Oo.
Tama ka, nalimutan. Mali yung inad ko. Yan. Tama, tama. Galing niya sa ano. May observant dito. Yan ang mga magiging millionaire.
Mataas ang grade yan mamaya, sir.
Pwede rin English name, server 3. .nexus.local. Okay? Ayun, server 3. Okay, apply. Yes. Okay, server 3. Zone transfer. Anyone listed as the name server? How do you like to transfer? Dynamic address is none. Okay, okay. Okay, yan. Propagate na yan. Server 3 kasi ito eh.
Pasok na.
Fresh. Oh, antayin nyo, antayin nyo. May delay lang siya. Okay? Close natin to. Tools. DNS, reopen. Okay, so hindi siya mag-replicate, di ba? So papasok na dito yung module natin na module 14, which is troubleshooting. Matinding troubleshoot na to. So, ba't di mag-propagate? So that's the one ticket you will see. One ticket you will see. So how do you test? First, you have to make sure they're on the same subnet. Okay? Baka naman you're replicating to different subnet. Step 2, check whether DNS is authoritative. Okay? Authoritative ba yan? Hindi natin alam, right? We don't know. Next, we have to run the following command. Nexus lookup, NS lookup. We're gonna test reverse lookup if yung server 3 is listed as .23. Okay? What else? Yeah. So next, we have to check event viewer. You have to check the primary server, whether it might be refusing transfer. Kasi na-select ko none eh, di ba? I selected none. He might want both, no, instead of none. Step 3, you have to check zone transfer tab properties if the server restricts zone transfer. Baka naman, there might be restriction. Okay? Step 4, check primary server by following DNS server problem. Step 5, check whether secondary is running another DNS, such as bind. Baka may DNS existing. Okay, make sure it's only DNS for Windows. Okay, yun ang ating troubleshooting. So, heto na, tapos na tayo. So, troubleshoot na natin, troubleshoot. So again, first step, you have to make sure under name server it's listed. Okay, so checkbox, that's correct. Zone transfer to any server listed sa name server, which is okay, right? Next one is how do you send dynamic update? Baka gusto niya non-secure and secure. Okay? Yan lang, okay? Next is what else is next? Yun lang. So that's the only thing I changed. Okay, so let's check. Refresh. Yun, okay. Nag-propagate na.
Propagate na rin.
Non-secure ang gusto
Ah.
niya. Okay. Non-secure. So, let's check. So, we have server 1, 2, 3. We also have server 1, 2, 3. Okay. So, what will happen if I updated server 2 with different IP address? Will it propagate the change? Okay. So, refresh. So, let's say some admin made a mistake. He accidentally changed the IP to server 2. Samantalang dito server 2 is .22. So will it be propagated? Yung mistake na yun. Of course, yes. Na? Naging .68, di ba? 68. Okay, 68. Okay, so you might be wondering why it's not propagated. So may delay sa synchronization. No? So how do you do that? How do you address this one? Let's say gusto ng manager nyo, we want to force copy yung whatever in DNS record written here and DNS record dito. Let's say company use Google. Mas mali-mali. Pag tinepe mo facebook.com, lumalabas YouTube. Di ba? So that's a big problem. Tinepe mo YouTube, lalabas Facebook. So that's a big problem. So how do you resolve that issue? So you have to go to the replica, which is the secondary, and perform troubleshooting dito. No? So how do you troubleshoot? Ito, transfer from master. So it will copy the master, the host master, and download to secondary server. Okay? Pag the next time you did, naka-grayed out, meaning it's being replicated. So you have to wait. No? So ayun, it's doing replication pa. Refresh. Is it still doing replication? Refresh. Okay, 22 pa rin. So that should change.
Delay lang yan, sir, siguro.
Delay lang yan. Or open this one. Yun. Okay. So may delay lang siya. Okay, so yan. Completely propagated into secondary. Now, why do you need secondary? Because it's only a read-only. So let's say this one is assigned in Africa. No? Maraming hackers sa Africa. And suddenly they have access to server. Tapos pag di-delete lahat ng DNS record, they have no power. See? Walang delete. Wherein sa masters, primary, you can delete. Secondary, you won't be able to delete. You won't be able to edit anything. No? So the only thing you can delete sa master lang.
Naka-read only lang sila, no, sir, no?
Correct, naka-read only. Pero if I delete from master, no, that will be propagated soon. No? So may delay lang siya. Okay? So dinelete ko yung server 2. Okay? Dinelete ko yung server 2. That will be deleted as well dito. Okay? So if you want to do a forced replication, yan. Okay? So may delay lang yan. Okay, any question? Any question? Tapos na tayo.
Sir, may question po.
Sige, guys.
Doon po kasi sa sa reverse lookup zone, say for example, may practice po kasi parang na-experience ako na kapag ka nagpiping po ako ng isang IP address ng isang client, ang re-resolve siya sa isang sa a different host name or sa a different computer name. And that's because tingin ko dun sa reverse lookup zone, parang sa old IP na yon nakatali pa yon sa isang old na host name and hindi nag-update siya sa bagong host name na inassign mo yung same IP na yon.
Yes.
Usually po kasi dinidelete po namin doon sa may reverse lookup zone yung old na yun para mag-replicate ng pagbabago. Is that a good practice or is that a safe practice naman po na gawin po?
Yeah. It's okay. So usually, let's say gagawa ako ng to simulate what you said. So I'm gonna create reverse lookup zone, no, from primary, and then replicate to all DNS. The one I want to replicate is 10.1.1 subnet, a network ID. No? And then meron akong let's say server 1. I'll create a reverse lookup record, so it will be here, no? Ayan, so meron na ako reverse lookup. So the next time I perform NS lookup, let's say I want to find out sino C10.1.1.21. So I'm querying the DNS server to find out sino yung 21. So it will give me an answer. It is server 1. Okay? Then let's say suddenly nag-change, no? Nag-change yung IP. So that's what you meant, no? Nag-change yung IP. Nag-change yung IP. Yung tulad ng ginawa ko kanina, pining ko yung server na bago IP. It resolved to still the old one. 'Di ba? Old one pa rin. Kasi nga hindi ako nag-flash na DNS. So nag-flash lang ako DNS, then I was able to resolve to the correct IP, to the new IP. No? Is that what you meant? Iba yung ano ba?
Yes sir, synonymous po yun. Kasi para yung sa method niyo po kasi parang through flash lang tapos kahit outright editing dun sa forward zone niya. Pwede mo siyang gawin. Yung kami sir medyo hesitant kasi kami gawin sa forward 'yun. Kaya more of sa kami sa reverse kami tumitira.
Oh, yeah.
So
That's
parang
good.
bine-verify ko lang kung okay lang po ba yung ganong practice na
Pwede, oo. Pwede rin 'yan. Pwede rin 'yan. As let's say ibabalik ko yung DNS record na dinelete ko. DNS server record server record resource record pala. Server DNS server resource record A na merong IPv4 na hindi delete ko kasi 10.1.22 right? 22. And sino ba to? Anong pangalan? Name is server 2 under zone name Nexus .local. So binabalik ko lang yung record na which I deleted kasi I deleted server 2, right? So if I enter this one, mali. Add DNS server resource record A. Anong ano niya? It already exists. I remove server 2, di ba? Nag-exist pa daw yung server 2. What? Oh, I'm gonna do it manually. So new host, this is the manual equivalent. Server 2 with an IP address of 10.1.1.22. Created na daw, pero hindi ko makita. Hindi pa siguro nag-propagate or something. No? So, anyway, yung meaning ni sir, yung parang demo ko kanina, na nag-change ng IP. Okay, then pining ko yung host name. Responding to old IP pa rin. So, how will you create a new one? So, you have to propagate to all DNS. Kailangan propagate mo din dito yun. No? Okay, yun pa, existing pa. Existing sa record pa rin. No? Sa transfer of new copy. No? Hindi pa rin na-delete, pero dito deleted na. Hindi sila nagsisync na. Okay, so I hope I answered the question. Now, kung question is what is reverse lookup, no? Bakit kailangan reverse lookup? Most IP they uses most ISP they uses IP address to resolve host name. Kasi remember computer is made up of binary, no? Binary numbers. Then converted into decimal. That's why he come up with the IP address scheme, no? So pag kinuwiri ko 10.1.1, mas mabilis mag-respond ng DNS ang reverse lookup using reverse lookup nga ang DNS, no? Pero for humans, it's kind of difficult. Gusto natin yung name server 1, di ba? Like Facebook. Okay? So pag nagpe-Facebook ba kayo? Sige, ping natin Facebook. Facebook, ping Facebook. Ping FB, okay? Then he will give us IP address. Paano kayo mag-Facebook, di ba? Pag nag-Facebook ba kayo, ta-type niyo yung IP address. Oh, weird, di ba? Sino nag-Facebook IP address din na type? Wala, di ba? Pero pag in-enter mo yan, Facebook yan. O yan, no? Nag-resolve sa Facebook. Okay? So, a purpose ng forward lookup is for easier referencing. Purpose naman ng reverse lookup is much easier for a router to translate IP address to host name. Okay? Any question before we go?
Sir, may quick question lang ako. Sorry. Hello po.
Yeah, sige.
Sir, regarding po yung kanina dun sa GPO po sana. Dun po sa kapag naka-login yung isang user sa isang PC, bawal na siya mag-login dun sa isa.
Yeah. Group policy. So let's teka,
Nakalimutan ko.
stop ko muna tong tingnan na. Stop ko muna yung recording. Stop.